to ask Dr. Richardson if she would open us up in prayer.
Let us bow. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity of seeing another beautiful day. We thank you, Lord, for allowing us to serve as board members who are responsible for making decisions for the boys and girls in the state of Alabama. We don't take it lightly that to whom much is given, much is required. Lord, we ask that you will continue to bless Dr. Mackey and all of his staff, all of the superintendents, the administrators, faculty and staff, and all of the school districts that we represent. And Lord, as we go forward to conduct the business today, we ask that we will keep in mind that the children are first and that we are here for them and not for ourselves. Be with all of those who are represented here today as people are traveling to and forth, going back home. Be with them, give them safe travels, and we ask that you be with us in all that we do. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Richardson. We're going to move forward with the agenda. The first item on the agenda is the resolution to approve preparation program for Athens State. If they will come up at this time.
Good morning. We are grateful to have Dr. Tanya here with us today. The team and I had an awesome opportunity to go to Athens State University to conduct a visit as well. While there, we learned quite a number of unique features about Athens State University and had quite a wonderful visit. I don't want to steal any of his thunder, so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Tanya.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Barte, that's correct. Thank you, Dr. Hampton, and thank you, board members. I believe you have a handout here that I've shared with everyone just to give you an overview of our program. I do want to share a couple of highlights that kind of give you an idea of what makes Athens State unique. We are an upper division transfer institution, which means we only teach junior and senior level undergraduate courses as well as master's program offerings. So we're a transfer institution. We do not teach general education, and as a result, all of our students are either coming from community colleges or from four-year institutions. And as a result, the majority of our students are adult learners. They're non-traditional students. And if you look at the average age of our students, it's 28. So we serve a very unique population of students. I like to say that many of our teacher candidates, they have jobs, they have families, they have mortgages, they have responsibilities in their community, but they also have a dream of becoming teachers. And so we have a very flexible model that can serve them where they are at and provide them flexibility to complete their degree and get out in the classroom. The other thing I want to point your attention to is the number of students that we train each year. We are consistently in the top 3 of the state as far as the number of teacher candidates we train. So we serve a lot of students. We serve a pretty broad geographical area, and we aim to do that with quality and flexibility. Some of the other points here, just to take a look at, highlight some of the efforts that we've been working on with the Literacy Act and the Numeracy Act to really serve those with fidelity. And with both of those, to take a very long story short, we've had a complete overhaul of our curriculum with literacy and numeracy. We've engaged our partners with other institutions as well as the State Department to make sure that we are teaching according to those laws. And we're very excited about the impact those are having on our students and the students that these teacher candidates will teach. Before I can go on and on and on, I could be here forever. Do you have any questions about Athens State or our programs?
I'd like to comment.
Sure.
Personal privilege. I live in Athens, and Athens State has a profound impact on the entire region. And he is right. It's a unique program, and we're glad to have Dean Bartarian back, because he left us for a short period of time to work in a sister university and your sister school. But it's an amazing program, and we met shortly after we had that, the review that we had. Dr. Bartarian is a true education leader and a change agent. Because I was there when we met and we talked about all the revisions you're gonna put in place after we got the report out of Mississippi.
Sure.
And I can assure you, Athens State, not just because I say it, is one of the outstanding institutions in Alabama. And the caring faculty, the number of adjunct faculties you're able to have, the number of people you're able to bring into your curriculum who are also adjunct, the focus is fantastic. And I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're just relied on questions because you speak for the great program.
Thank you, Dr.
How many students do you have on your, in your programs, total?
Total,
Uh-huh.
we have about 800. If you total them all up in the College of Education, within our teacher preparation program, about 600. And as far as field experiences out there in the schools, whether they be interns or they're in different beginning level field experiences, we have over 500 that are out in the schools right now, practice teaching.
And I'm glad she asked that question because I now realize the 220 references the number of graduates that you.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, those are our completers for that year.
For that year. Okay, thank you.
Good question.
As a former superintendent, I love getting your students.
Oh, and that's the best I appreciate you sharing that. And that is, as you can imagine, the best compliment when we have compliments from principals and other teachers and administrators that see the quality of our students. Thank you.
And of course, we hired tons of them when I was superintendent in Athens.
Sure.
And I was there when he transitioned to be a university too. So I've seen a lot of growth in Athens State, Athens University, sorry.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The second item on the agenda is the resolution to modify the Praxis assessment scores as a precondition for initial certification.
Good morning.
Morning.
So it's that time of year where we are looking at Praxis tests that are expiring and new tests are being brought in to replace those current tests. So it's a similar process to what we do every single year. This particular year, we have 3 tests that are going to be expiring that we will be replacing with new tests. So those should be on the resolution that you guys received. If anyone does need a copy, I did bring some additional copies here for your reference. But it's our social studies content knowledge test as well as our technology education and our family and consumer science tests, which are part of our career and technical education programs. So as we've discussed in previous years, when there is a testing change, and you look at the scores, a score from test A, the current test, and the score from test B really have nothing to do with one another. So I don't want you to look at these scores and say, oh, this is a reduction in the rigor of the test. It's an apple and an orange. So when a new test comes online, we have national standard setting studies that Alabama does participate in. It's experts in the field for that particular test. And they review all of the different content pieces of that test, and then they suggest a national cut score. And traditionally here in Alabama, we have adopted that national cut score. So the scores that you see here for the new tests do not indicate less rigor or anything of that sort. It's just a different test with a different process as it's vetted by experts in the field. So those will be the 3 tests that are going to be changing this year. And then we have a new item. This is something different with our alternate preparation programs that we're bringing into the state. That creates some different situations sometimes. So right now, with the current alternate providers that we have 3 areas of world language that we don't have college preparation programs for in the state right now. So we haven't had a Praxis test adopted for those particular areas. With those programs coming on board, we may have students that are interested in those programs and they want to complete a program that will lead to certification for those areas. So we feel that it's important to go ahead to keep the playing field level in all of our areas and adopt the World Language Praxis Test for those 3 areas. And those will be in Chinese, Russian, and Japanese. So that would be 3 new additions to our testing program from what we have now. So any questions for me?
Well, you cleared up the fact in the original, with it being a 2-point difference, that we're looking at 2 different tests altogether.
Exactly.
And this is the recommendation nationally that we normally follow for cut scores.
That is correct, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I think we all had the same question. So thank you for
I had a
clarifying
question,
that.
real question. So you said these 3 are the ones that are coming up now. How long will they stay in place? Just for a year?
Well, it really depends. That's a question of when ETS decides that it's time for an update, and lots of different reasons can signal an update. If there's changes in the standards, if there are things that they feel that need to be tweaked on a test. Some tests change every few years. Some tests we may keep for, 5, 6, 7 years before a change is made. So what we do is we follow the schedule with ETS. Here in the state, it's been our practice to wait until the 2nd year that a test is out, so that any bugs that might have, needed to be fleshed out can be fleshed out. So we usually adopt on the 2nd year after a test is released from ETS. So these are not new tests. They've been at the bank for ETS for quite some time.
Okay.
They will just be coming on board as new tests here in Alabama.
So it's not mandated, it's as needed. It's not mandated by time, it's just as needed.
Exactly, yes ma'am, that is correct. We just follow the schedule of when a new one is released, and we know that we have to get busy with that adoption process.
Just to add one piece with that, ETS is our Education Testing Services, and we keep a very close partnership with them to the point that they know our board meetings and work sessions. We have our great person with us right now, raise your hand, Malik, he's actually with the ETS company. So we have Denise, Siobhan's team, they built a great relationship with them to make certain that we're notified in a timely manner. That's why setting it on the agenda right now gives us preparation for that September rollout. So we're in conversation with them continually so that we know in advance when they're getting ready. I used the word retire in assessment. I said they retire an assessment and they bring on another one. So it gives us that preparation to make certain that we're letting our universities know in a timely manner.
That's great.
Yes.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, Malik.
Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, and great to see all of you today.
Thank you.
Dr. Mackey?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chesson. I think the next several are mine to discuss. So that items 3 and 4, this is appointing the state textbook committee. You know we do this every year after we adopt standards. For the benefit of Mrs. Mooney and Dr. Long, let me talk just a little bit about that. So we're in the process, as you know now, of adopting new standards that'll come to you in November for a vote in December on computer science and digital literacy. Last year we did the arts and social studies. So the way we do this is it's a multi-year process. It's a year of development, then they come to the board, and then if they're adopted, of course there's a lot of changes. You'll get your first look at the computer science and digital literacy in June. You won't just get it in November. But through the year we'll be working on it. Then we come back the next year and we work on textbooks. We've got to adopt textbooks that align with those standards. So what you're being asked to do today is to appoint a textbook committee. Now the textbook committee is a little, it's a different law than the standards, the courses of study. So remember, this is the one that you make the appointments, the governor makes some appointments, and those have to be confirmed by the Senate. So it's a pretty technical process. If there's missing areas of expertise, we can put extra people on there, but there are so many. I think the governor makes 9 appointments that have to be confirmed by the Senate, and you make appointments, and then we'll get them started. They will review all the textbooks. They will rank them using a rubric. basically green, yellow, and red. Greens and yellows can be used by district. Obviously, we strongly encourage them to only purchase green and not to purchase red. Anything that's, and then you will, at the end of the year, adopt those textbooks, or a list of them. Some of you will remember, or board members who've been with us for a while, sometimes it takes more time. So when we did English Language Arts a few years ago, y'all adopted the whole list except K3 reading, because we only had one vendor and the board wanted more than one vendor. So you asked the textbook company to go back and keep working and try to come up with at least 2 options, which they did. So sometimes it takes a little more time, but ideally it takes a little less than a year. So these are the folks who have been nominated for the textbook committee. You'd be asked then to make that formal appointment on them next week. We get at least one person, obviously, from every district. Our department staff kind of go out and figure out who's willing. I will tell you, we have to beg, borrow, steal, and pull teeth usually to get people to serve. This is probably the hardest committee we do, because they have to read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages, maybe thousands of pages of textbooks, and go through them and answer questions about them and review them for content quality, for alignment to our standards, and for the board put additional stuff on them a few years ago, not just they align to the standards, but looking at culturally and how they fit in with Alabama schools, and is this something that's going to cause our communities concern? And so they look at them in that way too. So they're looking at them really through 3 lenses. It really is hard to get people to serve, but we feel pretty good about this list. I don't think I actually personally know anybody on the list, but I trust our staff. They've begged people to serve. Anyway, that's kind of the process. I'd be glad to take any questions on either one of them. So you have one on arts and one on social studies. And then, well, I need to say this too while I'm talking about the process. So when they come back, at the end of this process, you board members will get a sealed envelope that will have the textbook committee's recommendations. Now, normally, almost everything you vote on comes to you as a recommendation from the superintendent. So like when you adopt new courses of study, I'm saying that we as a department have reviewed them, and I as the state superintendent am recommending the adoption. But the way the textbook law works, I do not have a direct role in the textbook process. The textbook committee makes a recommendation to you, which you can accept, reject, or kind of amend and send back to them. You cannot amend it like just take a book off and say, well, I don't want this book. You can send it back to them and ask them to resubmit. But the law lays out pretty clearly how this process works. So you'll get this packet at the end of the year that'll have the red, green, and yellows, and then you'll have an opportunity to vote on the packet. Again, accept it, reject it, send it back. This last year's we did science. As board members remember, you accepted all of the committee's recommendations. With it really pretty much no fanfare, because they've done an exceptional job. That sometimes is more difficult, and I would tell you, social studies is going to be one that's going to be a challenge for this committee. And when we get to the end of the year, it may take some, there may be some questions about some of the books on the list. I don't want to say that for sure. I don't know, because I don't even know who will submit. We cannot divulge any of this, though, until after the vote. Like, we can't even tell. We signed agreements with the textbook committee, the textbook companies that want to submit books, and then we know who submitted books. But the list that the committee brings back to you says this is what we recommend. These are the greens, these are the yellows, these are the reds. Nobody can see that but board members, myself, staff who have to work on it, obviously. But the media don't get to see it, local superintendents don't get to see it until the board has voted on it. And that, again, is the way the law is written. And the reason is because of the competitive nature of the fact that once the list is out there, then all the textbook companies are going to want to sell textbooks. And so the law is written in such a way that it doesn't, to keep it from leaking out, so that some textbook companies go back and try to kind of game the process before the vote. Okay, Dr. Chestnut, those are, I'm sure, are the questions.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Dr. Mackey, this is probably the most, I've served on the textbook committee and curriculum committee, and I know this is sometimes has a lot of intense interest in the public. So when we get the social studies component, can we reject subject components, or is it all just social studies? Because we all know our social studies curriculum has history and other components. So is it take it or leave it, or
I'm looking over here at our lawyers.
you're
I think they're probably gonna have to, I've got one on each side. My recollection is that you have to approve or reject the report. And that you can't pick and choose and say, you know what, we're good with all these U.S. history books, but we don't like the ones for world history. And that,
or geography,
right, or whatever.
some ethical
else.
issues.
I think it is you accept or reject the whole report. Now, that's what happened with, however, that being said, I'm going to go back and make sure about that, because with the reading, we did separate out reading as a separate recommendation. And then the board approved all the ELA books except third grade or K-3 reading, and those we took as a separate item. So I'm not sure that it can't be separated, but I think we have to do that ahead of time.
Because what I'm contemplating, having served on the committee, and we actually had in social studies,
Yes.
some objection to some grade levels, because in social studies, it's, as in reading, different at various grade levels.
Right.
So what we did, and I do recollect what we did in ELA, and I'm hoping that we have some decision before even the committee meets or before it comes us what our options are, because, you know, like when I was on Alabama history was the one.
Yeah. Yes,
Because we
sir.
had limited edition. That was before you were out of elementary school, probably.
Before I was state superintendent, for sure.
But
Yes, I think I will get you an answer to that, and
I think the committee needs to know while they're
Right.
deliberating.
yeah, we'll do that. Make sure y'all know and they know. We'll be a little different this year because, as you remember, we've split Alabama history now into grades 3, 4, and 5. It used to only be a 4th grade subject, so
Right.
that's going to make some changes. Significant changes. I mean, 4th grade's been Alabama history for over 50 years. Now it's going to be split across 3 grades, so we're asking textbook companies to do something really significantly different. Yes, sir.
In government just now. There are not a grade level curriculum changes.
There were some other changes. Middle school, you recall the 7th and 8th grade, I don't remember the specifics, but the 7th and 8th grade curriculum changed pretty significantly. The high school did not. High school is set actually by state law. We teach world history in 9th grade. We teach U.S. history in 10th and 11th. And then the senior year is U.S. government and economics. But the 6, 7, and 8 sequence, we went to 3, 4, 5 Alabama history, and 6, 7, and 8 sequence did change some.
I just wanted to clarify, having worked there and as a superintendent, we say textbooks are not curriculum, but the reality is sometimes they are.
So,
Pardon?
I said they shouldn't be, but you're right, they are sometimes.
I said we say they are, but sometimes they are. Thank you for that clarification, Ms. Manning.
Dr. Chestnut, when we get to the end of social studies and arts, or if you want to break and come back on that, I've gotten the message that they are setting up for the music upstairs. We want to take a break and go listen to them, and then either come back and finish the work session or go to lunch and come back after. It'll be up to y'all.
I'm not talking.
Okay. So for everybody out there, we're gonna go upstairs. We've got a musical performance on the second floor. Everybody's welcome. You'll have to come out of this room, go to the right, go up the second floor, and then, but we're letting board members go first. Everybody has to stay. Let them go first. And then we will go to lunch. We will come back. That's probably 20 minutes, say 12:30. Is that good? 12:30. Okay.
Dr. Richardson, that was good time with her.
Anybody that wants to take the stairs, it's only 2 flights, but otherwise, let's let our board members get the elevators first, please.
There's nothing but this on.
Closer to me.
So the textbook, we talked about 2 textbook committees, those will come for a vote next month. I think that'll, if there are any other questions about that, just let us know. Purple Star Schools, glad to see this program growing. Y'all remember that is military family friendly recognition. And the first year, we had a few schools to apply, but this has become it's like a competition around the state now to get your school recognized as a Purple Star school. So there's a whole list of things they have to go through, and then we have a review committee that looks at it. It's not just it's the department, and then there's some military folks involved in the review, and it's a big process to see if they meet all the qualifications for Purple Star School. The Purple Star Schools is a national thing, but we just we do our part. So I'll find this out by next month, try to find out, but we were number 2 in the nation in the number of schools. Ohio was ahead of us, and our schools, as you can see this long list, they are really wanting to be recognized as military family friendly. So we have a lot of school districts that are applying for it. So anyway, that will just be a recognition. Now they do usually come. And this is one of those months like last month when we may have an auditorium full of school people, because usually they want to come and get their resolution, and they come from all over the state. I don't know if there's any.
There are very few Huntsville and Mountain City schools that aren't already on the list.
That's right. So one of the things is that once they're on the list, they're on the list. So they don't. You may see, well, why is so-and-so school not on there? They might have done it the last 2 years. This is their 3rd year, I believe, to do it.
That means every city left in Huntsville City.
And then Gilliard Elementary School, we were down there a few weeks ago. No, I'm good. So Gilliard is in Mobile, and Dr. Chestnut and Ms. Ziegler were both with us to recognize our Milken educator there. And the Milken Award is one that we give out every year that's always given out at the school, and it's always a surprise. It's sponsored by the Milken Family Foundation, and they give a $25,000 prize to the winning teacher to be spent on whatever he or she wants. And there's some other stuff too, and they become a part of the Milken National Network. We've had a teacher almost every year in Alabama. A teacher or a principal, can be a principal, and occasionally we've had 2. It's very rare to have 2. In my years of giving them, we've only had once have we had 2. But anyway, we had one this year, and it was a lot of fun if you haven't seen it, because she was also the school's mascot. So she was actually dressed up in an alligator outfit and with that gator head on, and so it was kind of we've never given one to somebody that was dressed as a gator, I can tell you that. So she'll be here with us next month, Miss Travis from Robert Gilliard School in Mobile, and this is just a recognition of her as being our national.
She got money, right? Is it 25?
She gets $25,000. Yes, sir. So then, now item 7 takes some. I'm going to do a little explanation on this one. The Alabama School of Fine Arts, under its organizational structure, it's the oldest of the 4 set-aside high schools. And 3 operating. Remember, the 4th one is the School of Healthcare Sciences that will be in Demopolis. And Dr. Jimmy Martin, that was with us this morning, the superintendent of Pell City, is going to go there to be their president. But the Fine Arts School is the oldest, and their board, or at least part of their board, is affirmed by the state board. It's basically a confirmation type process, but this is how we've done it. So they have to give us 3 nominations every time they have an open board seat, in order of their preference for whom they want. So they say, this is who we want, and then this is our second choice and our third choice. How we have handled that is to go with their first choice historically. You have all 3 resumes. What we will do is prepare a resolution with one of those 3 names in it. And you can discuss it now if you want to, but without any I don't know any of them. Well, actually, one of them I have met before, but you've got their resumes. But again, we've always just gone with their top choice. But if you look at those, if I would say if you don't want to go with their top choice, then by law we have to go with their second choice. And if nobody wants to do their second choice, the third choice.
So we don't vote on, this is not one of those where we actually vote on?
Now we just pass a resolution that affirms somebody.
So which is their first choice?
Well,
Elias
It's Henderson.
Hendricks.
Is it Henderson?
Henderson.
Well, I have three on there, but it doesn't
Hendricks.
say.
Three on there, but the
It's
one that's
Hendricks.
Elias Hendricks is is their first choice, and so we have put Elias Hendricks' name in the resolution. But you also have resumes for Dr. Jeffrey Moore, who was number 2, and Manisha Mishra, who was their third choice. Now I say third choice. This is the oddest thing because they basically tell people we have to put 2 other names down, but you won't get chosen. So if we ever choose somebody that's like the third choice, I think we need to go back to them before they're elected and make sure that they're okay with that. But barring any objections, before next month, we will put Elias Hendricks on there. If there are any questions, let me know, because we don't have to approve it next month. This person takes office July 1st, so the School of Fine Arts gave us a little bit of leeway. So if you want to look at it, just let me know if there's any problems with that. Okay, recognition for Library Month. We just did our library standards, and this is School Library Month, and or April will be School Library Month, so you see a recognition there for them, and we'll do a few special things for libraries and librarians next month. Okay, and now to my updates. Any questions on any of those? So I want to talk about a couple of things, and one of them is most recent with what happened yesterday, because I feel like, we talked to Dr. Chesson about this, we're in a time where I feel like I almost need, I want to come over here actually, I want to see everybody. With all the changes in Washington, I think it's just good if I maybe do an update every month for a while. So as you know, on this week, I guess Tuesday, we learned that there was going to be a big layoff at the Department of Education. And they announced that yesterday, Wednesday, the offices would be closed, and they would reopen today. But there would be no disruption of services. And as everybody knows, there were disruption of services. We still don't know exactly what happened. We know that the portal didn't work. And for everybody's benefit, briefly, I just want to kind of go through how federal money flows. So we get over $500 million of federal money every year through the Department of Education. Most of it is special ed funds, or what you hear called IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, and that's a big part of it. And then the title programs, which come under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, also known as ESSA. They change the names all the time. Elementary and Secondary Education Act, the most current version is the ESSA, or Every Student Succeeds Act. Before Every Student Succeeds, it was known as No Child Left Behind. Before No Child Left Behind, it was known as Goals 2000. But it's just amending the old Elementary and Secondary Education Act from 1967, I think. So they just they amend it, and every time they amend it, or they reauthorize, I should use the right term, they reauthorize it every so many years, and when they reauthorize it, they put a new name on it. So it's currently known as ESSA. That's Title I, that's the biggest part of it. Title I's funds are based on a complicated formula that I still don't understand, but basically it looks at community poverty based on the most recent census. That's the number one indicator. So it's not how many children in the school are in poverty, it's community poverty based on the most recent census data. But then they lay over that another formula that does take into account how many students there are and so forth. And so our schools can qualify for Title I funds. There's Title II funds, which can be used for teacher professional development or class size reduction, and they used to be called Eisenhower funds. When I was in school, when I was a teacher, it was used for math and science. That really precedes the ESEA. It was part of the original National Defense Education Act in 1958, I think. So the Eisenhower funds are Title II. Title III are funds that we can use for English language learners. Title IV is for school safety. And so all of that goes in, but those are all small amounts of money compared to Title I in special education. So districts get an allocation for our new board members, for our veteran board members. You get so many memos, but every year you get copied on a memo. That is the allocation sheet. So districts see how much money they're getting in IDEA, how much money they're getting in Title I, how much money they get in Title III. Some districts don't qualify for some of these funds because they don't have enough students in one or more areas. Okay, the district has to spend the money, and then they come to us, and we have a portal called the something to. What else? I forget the name of it. EGAT. So they turn it in to us. This is what we spent last month, basically. And then we accumulate all the districts' requests, and we go to the G5 portal and pull down money from the Fed. So it's all reimbursement. The district, so it's one of the things I want people to understand is like, even if there is a glitch, we don't need any teachers to say, oh my gosh, I'm a special ed teacher. Does that mean I'm not getting paid this month? It's money you've already been paid. So the district's already paid it. They're just turning it in for reimbursement. And then we accumulate that and we turn it in. So it depends from day to day how much we request. Yesterday's request was about $8.9 million. Today was about $3 million. Our accountants go in, they pull the money down. Of course, all this is, I'm making it more simple than it is because it's very technical, because then that money has to go out to the districts. But the $8.9 million has now been paid to the state. So that's done. It's just like your online banking account. Just because you do a transaction, you do a remote deposit on a check, take a picture. I still can't get used to that. And take a picture of a check and just pretend I've gone to the bank. But then you want to go back and check your account to make sure it actually went in. So it takes about 24 hours for that to happen. I got confirmation while we were upstairs at lunch that yesterday's draw did get deposited into the state's accounts. And today's draw, about $3 million, we'll know, I assume it'll be Friday. Yeah, we'll know tomorrow afternoon. But we don't think there'll be any other glitches. We don't know what happened. We don't know why the portal was down. It really doesn't matter to me why the portal was down as long as it's back up. But they had a lot of portals that went down yesterday. You may have seen on the news that the student loan portal also went down. They had several technological problems yesterday. The big problem for us was that nobody could answer a question because the program didn't work and the department was closed, so there was nobody to ask a question to. And the big red letter alert was, we won't be able to get to you for a long time. So fortunately it did reopen, everything's fine with that. The people have asked if I'm concerned. I mean, as long as the money flows, we're going to be fine. We just need the federal money that our schools have been promised, because the aid is about 10% of our budget comes from the federal government. And I know that you know that the total state budget is over $9 billion, but remember, a lot of that goes to colleges and it goes to pre-K and it goes to other things. What we get from the legislature is about, I think this year, about $6 billion, and then we get about $500 to $600 million, or about 10% in federal funds. And obviously, if it didn't come, we'd have a 10% hole. That's a big problem. But there's been no discussion about the money not flowing, and we have plenty of money in the bank, so to speak, to cover short-term issues like this. So It's not a problem. As far as the reorganization of the department, you know, I mean, obviously, if there are fewer people, then that means we're going to have to rethink the way we do things because they're going to be, I assume. So how they do, as you can imagine, is they assign a person who answers questions for our federal programs first. So we have a regional person who might have several states. My assumption is if they're cutting their staff in half, then if I used to have 5 states, I may now have 10 to answer questions to, which means it may take longer to get answers, and we'll just work through that process with them. But we don't know, here's the thing, we don't know where they've made cuts. So let's say they might have made, even though you saw in the news that they reduced the staff by 50%, well, they might have cut one area by 80%, and they might have made no cuts to special ed. We don't know any of that. We've not seen any of that. It's not been released. So I think that what you'll see in the next week is we'll begin to kind of figure out what's what. And if we've got new contact people, who the new contact people are, and work with those folks. Last month, when I stood here, I told you that they just that morning nominated some really good assistant secretaries and the new deputy secretary and the undersecretary. And I still feel really good about that. The problem is, on that, Congress has delayed all of those confirmation hearings till the summer. So those people cannot start work until they're confirmed. And so I am hoping that they'll kind of move those confirmation hearings up and maybe get those people in office a lot sooner. Because as I said last month, I know some of them personally, and would, you know, yesterday would have been just calling friends, but they're not in office yet, so they can't answer. So I'm hoping we get that process straightened out. I actually think you'll see the department doing some new hires soon as they start to fill those seats that have to be confirmed, and then like there's secretary and undersecretary, deputy secretary, about half a dozen assistant secretaries, and then under that there are deputy assistants. And those deputy assistants don't have to be confirmed. When you get to a certain level, they can just hire those people in. So the hiring will go a lot faster at some point. And you're going to see, I think you're going to see some more folks being hired in. I feel like by summer they're going to have their footing. The last thing we'll say about it, and I'll be glad to answer questions. So long term, though, is the department going to be smaller? Probably so. Because we keep hearing that they're going to actually take a lot of the functions and move them to other sections of government, and we'll just have to see what it looks like. Our core programs are IDEA, or special ed, and ESSA, which is Title I, II, III, IV. And I have not heard not any rumors, haven't read anything in the paper that says those programs are going to be either reduced or moved to another agency. So I think our core functions, when it's all said and done, are going to stay pretty much the same. But then those other things that affect us ancillary, like student loans and all that, would be different. FAFSA would be one of those. So FAFSA's one. Mr. Moore and I have talked a little bit about that because y'all know we want all our students to fill out the FAFSA. That's something we've worked hard on. They had some issues last year because they rolled out a new online FAFSA. It didn't work the first couple of months. And that may get moved to another agency. It may get moved to the Department of Labor. It might get moved to Treasury. I don't know, but I keep hearing it's going to be moved somewhere. Well, obviously that would be something then we'd have to think about, you know, how's that going to look in the future? But for right now, I think we just hold tight because we don't really know that much. Okay, the other program, I know I'm droning on, but I'm about to quit droning. Child nutrition. Y'all need to know about that. So most of our federal funds don't even come through the Department of Education. They come through the Department of Agriculture for child nutrition. Remember that we manage all the school lunch programs in the state, obviously, and school breakfast programs, which most of our schools now offer breakfast. We also have after-school programs. We actually have some weekend programs where students can take food home, backpack programs, take food home on the weekend. We manage all the food banks in the state, the funds for all the food banks in the state, and summer feeding programs too. Not just for children, for everybody. So the Central Alabama Food Bank here in Montgomery, huge operation that covers like, I don't know, 35 counties or something. And that funding, the federal funding they get, all flows through us. Department of Agriculture to us, and then us out to the food banks. So we manage a lot of programs beyond just the lunch program. Right now, none of that funding's been affected except for one program, and that's about $16 million, and it's the Farm to Table program. So y'all have seen us talk about Farm to School. So that's how that's funded. We actually get money to go like buy Satsumas is the big one because there's a lot of Satsuma farmers down in Mobile County that want to sell directly to schools. Apples is a big one. I know Scott's Orchards up in Madison County participates. There's lots of folks so we can buy food, fresh food, and ship it directly to the school. It's actually a little more expensive because there's, the big, the produce providers, so the big companies that sell to cafeterias and restaurants also sell to our school cafeterias, and they get some real discounts by buying in big volume. So when we go buy from a neighborhood farmer, it actually usually costs a little more, but we think that's worth it, and work closely with Ag Commissioner Rick Pate, and he thinks it's worth it. So we might spend just a few more cents, not much, to get fresh apples, fresh Satsumas, fresh watermelons, and other produce to our schools. But we've been paying for that with this federal USDA grant, and the USDA announced this week that that's over, done with. So again, it does not mean that our kids won't get food. They're going to get food. They're going to get plenty of food. It'll meet all the criteria, but it may not be farm to school. Now, I'm in hopes that we can find a way to maybe working with the Ag Commissioner to kind of keep some of that going, but we won't have any federal money to pay for it. And obviously, we don't have $16 million just lying around, neither our department nor his, to do that. But our farmers love it, and our school people love it too. So anyway, I hope that we can keep that going. But that is a program you may see some news about. There's been a couple of stories about that program going away. And it is, but again, it doesn't mean that we won't have food. It just means that particular program, the U.S. Department of Ag is ending. So ask me questions. What do y'all want to talk about with this? Yes, ma'am.
I have parents contacting me and saying, my child is in special ed. How is the shutdown of the Department of Ed going to affect my child? And my response has been that those funds are congressional funded programs and shouldn't make a difference. Is that somewhat correct?
This is completely correct. So special education, federal funds are continuing to flow, and those children have protected rights under federal law, IDEA, and there's it would take an act of Congress, truly, to change that. And remember that the federal government only funds less than 20%. I don't know the exact this year. It was 12%, but the actual total amount spent on special education is very low for the federal government. It's important. The 12% is a lot of money, but compared to how much the state spends on it, there's much more state funding spent on special ed than federal. But the federal law is that, the law is very clear that even if the federal government decided to zero it out, state governments are required to fund it anyway, because that's what that federal law says. This is a state responsibility to provide for children's IEPs, and we're going to give you some money to help with that, but it's your, and that's not a funding provision. That is a right created by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So I don't see that changing at all, but I know parents are worried about it. I've had more questions about that than anything else.
So have I.
I'm sorry, along those same lines, I know with IDEA, some of those same children receive Medicaid funding. How is that going to be impacted? Because I know IDEA, and you said it's only a small
Right.
percentage, but some of those students, as I said, receive Medicaid. And I know they're taught, so you may not even have
No.
answer of that
Yes,
being
ma'am.
cut out and Medicare. So how would that affect their services?
So I don't know exactly, but we've had only brief conversations with Medicaid,
Okay.
but following what's happening there. So there are a couple of ways we interact with Medicaid. Medicaid is, of course, a program to provide health insurance, health care for people
Correct.
who can't afford it. But children, like Dr. Long probably understands this, dealing with insurance companies better than I do, so I gotta be careful. He may have to correct me. Children, it's easier to qualify for Medicaid as a child than an adult. So there are a lot of children basically are
I'm
largely
thinking about
recovered.
catastrophic, those that are catastrophic, that's what I'm,
Okay,
That was
I'll
nice.
get there.
Okay.
I promise.
okay.
So a lot of our children are covered by Medicaid for insurance, and then
Yes.
there's a program called, there's a program for children whose families may make too much money to qualify for Medicaid, but the children can still be insured. All kids.
All
Or
kids.
CHIP, Children's Health Insurance Program.
Correct.
Is that right?
All kids.
All kids.
That's what it's called in
Okay.
Alabama, and federally it's called CHIP.
Federally CHIP. See, I shouldn't be doing this. All kids. So we do charge. So there are children in our schools that, let's say they have they need a wheelchair. They need special occupational therapy. Then we can charge all kids and/or Medicaid for that service if it's
Okay.
provided in school.
Okay.
That does provide and we can also charge administrative
Cost.
administrative costs back to Medicaid. The School Boards Association, Ada Catherine's back there, I won't put her on the spot, but they kind of manage that for the districts. So that is several $1 million a year. The State Department doesn't get, it goes straight to districts.
But I know
That
that affects our children
could-
that are special.
Yes,
That's why
ma'am.
I asked that question.
And it could, so that, there's been talk about Medicaid changing, and that could change.
Okay.
Now, but still, the law says, so like if a child qualifies for occupational therapy, whether Medicaid will pay for it or not, the district's required to pay for it. I think the concern for us would be, if Medicaid wasn't paying for it, and if we didn't have enough federal funds, then where are we gonna get the money to do that? Because it's gotta come out of the state budget somewhere. But again, right now, I don't know, I know we're all hearing there's gonna be changes to Medicaid, but I don't know what exactly they would be. And Dr. Long may know more, and Nick may know more than I do, but we're kind of watching it. If there's anything.
Okay. Two more quick
Yes.
questions.
Okay.
Okay, I know you covered Title I, and you also talked about Title III with English language learners.
Right.
How would we be impacted, if at all, with Title II, which I know is professional learning and development of leaders? How would we be impacted with Title II? Would that?
So Title II is also, is part of under ESSA, so it
Okay,
should
yeah.
be fine. We shouldn't have any cuts with Title II. Though there's definitely been some discussions in Washington about eliminating Title II.
Right, okay.
But it would take, my understanding, that takes congressional action to do.
Also,
Actually, there was talk about eliminating it when No Child Left Behind was replaced with the Every Student Succeeds Act. There were a lot of people who thought that Title II had kind of outlived its usefulness and wanted to roll that money into Title I, but it did survive, and so it's still there. Yes, ma'am. Is that it?
well, no, the
No,
only
what
other
else?
thing I thought about in reference to dismantling, if you're decreasing your workforce and sending the various components to different departments, in dismantling, you may very well end up with no department at all, ultimately, it appears, perhaps. And I'm not asking you to answer that, I'm just saying, overall, the way it appears.
Could be really small. It does, the Department of Ed
Non-existent.
was established by Congress, and
Right.
it would take an act of Congress to abolish it. It is, by the way, the smallest federal cabinet
Entity
level
right now.
agency already. And so, and will be half its size soon, so yeah, it's gonna be much
Almost
smaller.
Non-existent. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Miller?
What impact is the failure to pass a CR at the national level having on us? That is the real, all these things are kind of subordinate to the absence of a CR.
Yeah, so the continuing resolution to keep the government funded, keep it moving. So it does not have any impact on our IDA and Title I funds because those are funded separately. My understanding, I could be wrong, but I think that's right, that those have already been, like those funds continue to flow. The problem would be if the government shuts down this weekend, then there won't be anybody there to answer questions until it reopens.
Well, you know, where I live is
But-
big deal.
Yeah, but, so it would definitely have an impact, but again, on the day-to-day children going to schools, they shouldn't see any change in the classroom. It's not
Control
like,
your money, the problem you had yesterday might.
well, it could come back, right. So if the agency shut down and we have another computer problem, there's nobody to answer the phone on the other end, and that's a problem. But I guess we could always have if thens.
No, I don't want
but-
it if then, I just
Yeah.
want to withdraw the fact that that has impact.
Yeah, it could have some real impact, but our funding, the Title I and IDEA funds don't flow that same way through that CR, so we should be fine, I think.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So there'll be more updates. I will promise you that what I've told you today will be old news by Monday, because it'll change. That place is changing fast. Yes,
By
ma'am.
tomorrow, actually.
And I wanna make sure I didn't miss it. You mentioned Title I, Title II, Title IV. Will Title III and Title V and the subsequent titles be impacted or?
They should all be funded at the same level, because they're, so 3 is our English language learners. I know a lot of people are worried about that.
The innovative ed, Title V.
Innovative ed, they're all should be just continue as is. Now, so the ESSA law itself is years overdue for reauthorization. And, those things, they just continue until reauthorized. They just never go away. So we're not in danger of it ending. But I think, again, when they reauthorized, the last reauthorization, there was a lot of talk about only having Title I, just rolling everything into Title I. And I think there's going to be talk about that again. I think there will be a lot of talk about making it simpler and more consolidated. I'm not saying that's the in or out or yes or no, but I think they're going to continue to talk about how do we make it simpler and then pass it along to the districts. Because even in those titles, there are subtitles. So if you look at a federal layout, it's just line after line after line of titles and subtitles and subtitles of subtitles. And the districts have to do a plan for all of that to get the money. And we have to do a plan. And so the one thing we keep hearing about, they're going to downsize. What I hope that what I'm hearing is they're going to make it simpler. So if we could write like one state plan instead of a plan with, that's basically 50 plans, it would be easier. But that's got, again, that's kind of congressional to get that done. There'll be other programs too, though. So, for instance, we lost out. I don't know if I've even told y'all this. We didn't lose money directly, but the U.S. Department of Ed for years has sponsored regional research labs called RAILs, Regional Education Laboratory, and they bid them out. Usually, universities get them. Sometimes nonprofits. Ours was the Region 6 or 7. We were 7. Region 7 comprehensive centers based in Florida. They're saying yes back there. So we work with them. We have and they do projects for us. Basically, they would do projects for us for free. So one of the things they've been working on is updating our English language learners' curriculum. And because they're federally funded, they do it for free. So there's no cost to us. Well, those rails have been shut down, like they are gone. Their employees are gone. The rails no longer exist. We got a letter last week or so saying, we're going out of business. So did it cost us any money? No, we don't get any less money. But now, if those are projects we want to, get done, we'll have to bid them out to somebody or do an RFP or something because that service has gone away. So I want to be careful. I don't want people to think I'm misleading. I'm not saying that there won't be impact. There will, but most of it's been indirect so far. The rail shutting down, and then the CNP farm to school have been the biggest impacts we've had. And then they're both pretty minor compared to the whole scheme of things we do. Anyone else? Okay, I feel like I'm back in teacher mode. I promise though, and I hope that there's people out there, and we've got media here, and I just keep saying it, and we'll say it one more time and sit down. Back to Miss Manning's question. If you've got a child with special ed, or a child who's gifted, or a child who has a 504 plan or whatever, just keep sending them to school. And I'm not saying there won't be issues every so often, but they won't be issues related to this. We'll work through all this. We don't need teachers panicking. We don't need parents panicking. We need to just focus on getting the work done, and we'll get it done. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mackey. The last item on the agenda is merely an announcement of our intent to extend and renew the state superintendent's contract.
May I comment, please?
Let me speak before you.
Certainly, I'm sorry, I didn't mean
I
to interrupt.
appreciate it. What I want to do is just do a brief recap of where we are. On March 3rd, all of the board members received a copy of the proposed contract. And we were directed to address our questions to Attorney Swan, and we're still following that process. Basically, when we look at the contract that has been agreed upon by Dr. Mackey's attorney and the governor's attorney, facilitated through Jason Swan, the contract basically is identical to the previous contract that Dr. Mackey currently has. The contract runs for 4 years through March of 2029. The contract basically just changes his salary amount and then the contract ending date. So if we have any questions, those questions will be directed to Jason Swan. As we mentioned, we've had this proposed contract since March 3rd, which gives us about 45 days, and we want to encourage you to ask questions. Jason has been assigned to serve as a facilitator in that process. And I just wanted to update everybody on where we are. I do know that everybody has received the proposed contract, and many of you have already addressed questions to Attorney Swan.
Yes, ma'am. I respectfully request, because I don't know how much I can say because it's confidential, it's not even in our side, that the date for decision being made to make. One significant reason, that's the anniversary date for Dr. Mackey. In the current contract, if you adopt it in April, he only gets an 11-month extension from where he is because his contract expires in May of 27. If you adopt it in April, it will expire in April of 28. And I asked him some questions, and I followed up with you, and you said he gave me some wrong answers. So I would like to extend to have our vote on it in May, respectfully, unless you want me to go into some, because you've asked me reasons, and I understand, and Attorney Swan's position, but I respectfully, for information purposes and clarity, to delay the decision to make, which is not new. We've done that many times on scores and other events. And this is a significant event. And it's not anything reflective on the function or even the contract for Dr. Mackey. But I ask that you respectfully to wait and have that vote in May, because your direction that we had privately was that decision would be made in April. And I don't know that the governor's objection, I don't know if anybody objects, but I certainly request that.
Well, that would have to go back through Jason to the
No, we don't.
governor's attorney and all
No, we
that.
said, I disagree. We are the hiring agency for the superintendent. And I think that Dr. Yvette Richardson, when we hired him the first time, was on the committee and understands the process. And we, the board, is the employer for the superintendent, as I understand it. I'm
Right.
sorry.
Okay, in line with that, for clarity,
Mhm.
as I understood it, I know you said that if we, began the contract in April, it would take it, I think you said until 2027, but we're proposing
Yeah,
that this
take
contract goes into
2029.
2029. So that's beyond.
I thought you said it was a 4-year contract. I thought you said state law, clarify, state law said we can only have a contract for 4 years, correct? So it's 25 to 29.
So it's 20, yeah, so that would be
It's
2029.
March 2029.
That information
2029.
was sent to you,
Right,
other board members.
that's
It's
what I
through
thought,
March
so
of
it's a
2029.
4-year.
It is.
So if it's done right, it
Exactly.
would give them to 2029, to your point. Okay,
So,
so the
Yes.
only other change then, beyond now that we have the date, 2029, that would be 4 years,
correct,
was looking at the salary.
exactly.
And we basically were looking at comparable salaries in the area, realizing that there were some local school superintendents that are making more than Dr. Mackey. And he's
Exactly.
responsible for overseeing all of them. So I mean,
Exactly.
that's just a point that we need to bring out.
Yes,
So clarify, I only ask that the vote be in May. That's all I'm asking.
And I can convey those back to the governor's office.
well,
But that's
Dr.
one
Renner
request.
is just one person. And so, you know, if we've discussed it, we will have over 45 days. There's no reason to delay it. There's no reason. The contract goes through the 2029. So there is no reason, and we still now have 30 additional days between now and April, that if we have questions, those questions can be addressed.
And the only other thing that I want to say for point of clarity, looking at the evaluation that was done, the numbers reflect that things are going in the right direction. And of course, when things are going in the right direction, you look at doing things to try to enhance and continue in that direction. So I think that's why also the board is looking at this. Me being only one board member, so you may want to try to ask the others that are here, are they in favor of waiting until May or going forward in April based upon the information that has been shared with us through the attorneys and the governor, and then us being our own one
Exactly.
vote.
The current draft is dated for April, so.
Yes, I'm saying April, right.
Being a new board member and having almost no information prior to March 3rd, I would appreciate a little longer time frame to kind of get caught up with everybody else on the board. It's just it's a significant event, and I'd appreciate a little more time to kind of assess what the first contract actually means in terms of its, you know, you can read a document and think you understand it, but it would be helpful to me to have a little more time.
I know we have 2 board members that are not here at our working meeting, and it might be a nice courtesy to them to also have an extra month.
Have you talked to them before?
Yes, I have spoken with both
What
of the
did they
board
say?
members that are absent, and they are all prepared to move forward in April.
Well, Dr. Ms. Ziegler said she was not, but I may be misinformed.
She is,
Sorry?
yes.
The point well taken.
Well, what we'll do is, and I appreciate everyone's comments, we will definitely take under consideration the suggestions and requests, and we'll move forward based on the majority of the board members' desires.
But we can't vote.
I
There's
know,
no such thing as a vote in work session.
we're not voting,
and may I make this request?
Mhm.
Based upon what Dr. Long is saying, knowing that he did not see the first contract or either the second, could he then perhaps get with Nick and Mr. Attorney Swan to bring him up to speed, and even you also, Ms. Mooney, going forward, so that you can understand why the recommendation is being made?
And both
May I make that
contracts-
request?
Yes, you
I
can.
think
Both,
that's
both contracts have been sent, they were sent.
But for understanding,
For
like you said, you can
understanding.
read one thing, but it's not the
Right.
same.
It's just there's a,
But it's
Right.
not the same as
Sometimes it's-
understanding, so maybe they could,
Anytime, be happy to look.
okay. So
That's-
if you all
that's a
would
good
get with
recommendation.
them, or however you wanna do it, I think that would just be a courtesy and fairness for
Or
them.
anybody that
Exactly.
wants me, I'll meet with them.
Even now, while we're here, yeah, after the meeting.
Okay, that's fine. And it still would be less, so it would not be in violation of the sunshine law.
Exactly.
Great. Thank you.
We thank everybody for their comments, and we look forward to our next meeting in April. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Not a question, so, Birmingham Board wants to know. We got his statement on the police department, they